shots that were fired at the time. And upon arrival, they found a victim suffering from a gunshot wound and immediately rendered aid until medics could arrive. But unfortunately, Ms. Owens passed away. You know, anytime something this tragic happens, there's always a lot of questions. And one of the main reasons for our press conference today is because obviously I got phone calls, text messages, emails over the weekend about concerns of this shooting. And part of it here, but before I get into that, I want to talk to the family first. You know, I became sheriff because I love my home and I care about the people that live here in Marion County. And that's everybody. There's no exceptions. And I'm here to assure in the eyes, well, the last time I did a press conference, it ended up national-wise, but at least by this state, I want the family to know that I'm here to provide all of my resources to come to justice for this case, to ensure that the family sees it. And there's many pictures how in cases like this, how it comes out. And there's a lot of determining factors. My heart goes to them. Because not only do we have a victim of a resident, but I also got young children who are victims. It always breaks my heart when children are involved. You know, in 33 years, this past Saturday was my 33rd year in law enforcement. I have seen the children over time in those 33 years, whether they be the victims themselves or they're the witness to domestic violence in their own homes. And it always breaks my heart. But I'm here to assure the family and the friends that my office is going to do everything to bring justice. A lot of the rumors and questions out there have been that we're not doing anything, we're not moving fast enough. A lot of people don't understand how the laws in the state of Florida sometimes works. You know, we only got a part of an initial. When you get to a scene, sometimes you only get one side of the story. And because we want to seek justice and we want to assure that we get the facts right, especially in a case to this level, we just don't take always one side, because it doesn't always paint the full picture. And especially, as I mentioned, we had two children, or children, I should say, more than two, that possibly witnessed what occurred. Now, we're not cold-hearted bastards that we're going to interview children the night they possibly witnessed their mother being killed. We're going to wait. Not only that, and I'll be the first to admit it, I'm not qualified to interview to that level. So we have to rely on professionals and experts, counselors, to sit down with them. Because how many of you and your viewers out there have seen a child being interviewed who clams up and doesn't want to talk? It becomes difficult. So it's something that we can't immediately and will not immediately do, just because we know what they or have seen what they have gone through. But be assured that when we do interviews, the facts are brought forward. The information is gathered. The pieces of the puzzle are put together so that we can come to justice. And that's what we will come to at the conclusion of this, is justice. Now, what's on your minds is what occurred that night. Here's what I can tell you. Is we know that this has basically been a neighborhood feud over time. I've got reports that these things they've called one side or the other. Either the mother, Ms. Owens, is called, or a shooter is called, complaining about the children. Now, it's children being children. Many of y'all have heard me talk about as being a father and having my own kids. Here's what I wish. I wish our shooter would have called us instead of taking actions into her own hands. I wish Mrs. Owens would have called us, in hopes we could have never got to the point in which we are here today. Now, my resolve of finding the truth is unwavering. Let me make that clear. The individuals standing behind me, most of them are my close friends, but they are part of the community. They know where my heart is. They know the dedication in which I have to protecting every citizen in my community. Now, the dispute between the children is what led us up to a confrontation at the door. Now, it's unclear at this time, and there's some things I can't give you because I don't know everything at the moment. But as we talk to more witnesses, the more information in which we get. My hopes is it will be resolved quickly, as in all of my cases. Sometimes my hopes and the path in which they are not equal, or they don't always agree. And let me encourage, because one of the things that we in law enforcement face out here when we conduct investigations is the unwillingness of people to talk. So this is my plea to the viewers that are watching now. If you saw anything, heard anything, call my detectives. And I'm pretty sure the media that's here before me, they'll be glad to take the number and put it on the screen later and give it out. Because in many cases, we don't have people that don't come forth. And I've heard the questions. Let me address a couple of other things. You know, I've heard questions about unsolved murders in which we do have. It's because people don't come forward. Contrary to what people think, we're not all seeing and we're not all knowing. We're just as human as you are. And we need your help in a lot of cases. No different than the one that's right here before us today. What I can also assure you is that we have been in talks with the state attorney's office. The night of the incident, my investigators have been working since the night of the incident and have not stopped working, regardless of the rumors that are out there. I might be a little prejudiced, but I think I got the best investigators that are in this state of Florida, because they are hard-working individuals to solve crimes. You know, the one thing I don't want to happen is the ugliness that sometimes comes out of these cases, whatever it may be. And I'm not implying nor alluding to anything. But I'm here to protect my community, and I'm here to serve justice. And probably the last thing that I will say in all of it is pray for those children. Pray for each and every one of them. Their life has changed. And now, one last thing. You know, Florida, most states don't have the stand your ground law. And what a lot of people don't understand is that law has specific instructions for us in law enforcement. And any time that we think or perceive or believe that that might come into play, we cannot make an arrest. The law specifically says that. And what we have to rule out is whether the deadly force was justified or not before we can even make the arrest. And sometimes it becomes difficult. And sometimes it becomes an obstacle. But only a temporary obstacle. Because it will be moved. And the final answer will come forward. Before I open it up to questions, I'll be glad to open it up to the floor. Any of the gentlemen that wish to speak, Reginald, if you would like to, or Chaplain, and then I'll end it with Mr. Thomas, and I'll introduce him here in a minute. So Reginald, if you want to say anything?
Yes, good afternoon. We're here standing before you today to support our sheriff as well as the families, both families. We'd like to get to the crux of the matter as to what happened. We'd like to calm all emotions that are running through the community and let law enforcement and our legal system play it out. At this time, we're having a plea for calm. Let's come together Let's put the facts of the case before us and let our law enforcement, our duly elected sheriff, the attorneys come together and let the system work out. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ambassador F.L. Brown. I agree with the sheriff. We would like for everybody to be calm and let the law take its course. I understand, because I went through this several years ago. So the kids, the one that's what's important. So we need to pray for the kids and let the sheriff do his job. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Brockington, and I concur with the statements that has been made, and we support the sheriff, but at the same time, I asked him straight up, you're doing everything you can to get to the bottom of this investigation, and he said he will. And so I believe that. I've known him for quite a while, and I believe him, but I put God first. Let's continue praying for the family and the children.
And the last individual that I asked to be here is the attorney for the family of the victim, and it's Mr. Thomas. So, Mr. Thomas, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sheriff. My name is Anthony Thomas. I'm an attorney representing the family of Ms. Owens. I, along with Attorney Benjamin Crump, have been working very closely to the family. We did meet with the Sheriff's Department this morning. The Sheriff has given us his full confidence as well as assurance that he will do a thorough and professional job on this matter. There is also going to be a press conference later this evening at the New Missionary Baptist Church, New St. John Missionary Baptist Church. That address I have here. That address is 2251 Northwest 2nd Street here in Ocala, Florida. And the family will also like to be there in solidarity, as well as with the rest of clergy around Marion County, to stand in unity to let Sheriff Woods know that we are with him, and we pray for this case to have an expedient end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and thank you, gentlemen, for your kind words. All right, open it up for questions.
Sheriff, can you just run through the basic facts as you understand them right now? How long between the beginning and the conclusion of this incident? How many shots were fired? Stuff.
I haven't been privy to the total amount of shots been fired, okay? Without sounding sarcastic, at least one, okay? It was very rapid. It wasn't like long period of time. And when I talked about previous cases, those were the ones in previous time where there have been previous incidents with the children being on the property or whatever the conflict was. But in this case, what we had is whatever the children were doing, we do know that our shooter was engaged with the children. However, whether it be she was yelling at them, don't know yet. And that's part of the interviews that Mr. Thomas and they've been working wonderfully with us. And I'm going to point that out before I go any further. You know, it's unusual to have some defense attorneys that are so cooperative with us because they know, and let me rephrase that. I don't mean defense attorneys. Let me correct myself because I know what y'all are doing. People twist that like, oh, hell. Not defense attorneys, but when you have attorneys that are in here to ensure justice is done, sometimes it's difficult. But his office has been wonderful with us and working with my detectives. But however, the children were part of this process, and they're witnesses. So we got to get more information out of them, and they're working with us now, which is vital, and is very vital. So whatever occurred there, and the actions in which the shooter did with the children, we're still trying to figure out. And at that point is when she went back into her home. At some point, I believe it was the oldest son that had went back and told the mother, or somehow the message got back to Miss Owens. Miss Owens came to the house to confront the lady. And when she confronted her, again, we only have one side of the story, okay? I want to make that clear. This is just one side of the story. It's not both sides. It's not all of it, okay? And this is why we take our time in these type of cases. So she confronted her, and then according to the one side, there was a lot of aggressiveness from both of them, back and forth, okay? Whether it be banging on the doors, banging on the walls, and threats being made. And then at that moment is then when Ms. Owens was shot through the door. I can tell you that.
And Ms. Owens' first name, if you don't mind.
What was that again? I'm sorry?
Her first name?
Ajika. Ajika, spelled A-J-I-K-E.
Adjuka?
Yes.
Sheriff, have detectives been able to interview the shooter? Is she cooperating?
Yes.
Can you give any more insight?
No, not at this time. Cannot.
Are you able to confirm the location that your deputies responded to that night?
Say that again?
Can you confirm the location your deputies responded to that night?
The address of
The address.
where the incident occurred?
Yes.
Do I have that in my notes, guys? Do you have the address? Okay, it is, and I'm good to say this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
1662 Southwest 107th Lane. And they're quadruplexes or duplexes, I believe. But that's the one building that it occurred at.
Sheriff, there was some information that came in a news release from the Crump Law Firm saying that the person who you're identifying as the shooter had chased the kids off the property, said that they wandered off her land. They left behind an iPad. When the kids went back to get it, that was thrown at them by this person, and that the child was hit. Can you confirm whether that's accurate at all?
Some of it is, some of it isn't, okay? And I'm probably gonna be more open about this case than most cases that I come before you, because this is not a whodunit. We know who did the shooting. The iPad or whatever the electronic device is, we don't know yet. Again, this is all speculation. The children are a big part of it, of answering a lot of our questions or a lot of the information for us to filter out the misinformation. Was something thrown at them? Yes, but not directly at them of what we're being told now. It just unfortunately may have hit them. But again, we don't know it all. So I don't want you to cling to what I just told you as golden, because we haven't interviewed or finished interviewing everybody. But something was thrown, and yes, it hit the children, but we're not sure if it was thrown directly at them. And I forget the other part of your question.
Well, I pretty much I just want to make sure those facts that are being put out by the law firm that's representing the family were accurate with what your investigators are saying as well, because like you say, you're really only getting information from one side on your side.
Correct.
And what they're talking about is,
Well, they're just like us. They're getting information. People are talking to them and telling them information. And my job, his job, well, not him. He doesn't work for me. And all of my detectives, their job is to weed out what is the truth and what is not the truth. And I'm not going to stand here and tell you that saying what they're putting out there is inaccurate. It's just I don't know yet.
Sheriff, is it an accurate summation to say that basically there's a lot of moving parts to all this, but your agency has to rule out whether there's any kind of self-defense or stand your ground component before you decide whether or not an arrest is appropriate? Absolutely.
I have to. It's not a choice. The law clearly says that. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not going to violate the law, okay, in regards to that. I'm not going to circumvent
My
it.
point being, somebody shot someone else, you have to decide whether or not that shooting was justified under the law.
That is correct. Yep, it is. Andy, I'll come to you in a minute.
I just want to know, have you released the genders and ages of the children yet?
No, we have not.
Sheriff, was this captured on a Ring video camera, and can you characterize what you see in the Ring video camera?
That's what we're trying to determine right now. We don't know.
You don't
Okay.
know if it was captured or not?
Correct.
So there was a Ring video camera there, but you don't know if you got the video?
No, it's not a Ring camera. We don't know if we got video of. I can't tell you that, okay, at the moment. Let's
You're
put it
looking for video, but none has been obtained by your agency.
Oh, look at there. Come up here and talk for me.
No, I'm just saying. I wanna
No,
make
you're
sure I'm
absolutely
clear.
correct. Yep, that's right.
Sheriff, when you said this has been an ongoing feud, how often were your deputies called out? Do you have, was it like a every week type thing?
report here is, that's a 911 hang-up. I don't know if that's related to it. I haven't read that one in depth. But the first report I have in my hand is January 16th of 2021.
So,
And there's others
so
in
a half
between them.
dozen over a couple-year period?
That would be about, that's a good guess of what I have in my hand.
Try not to guess, I'm trying to determine.
What I have in my hand. One,
We're still going through them, basically. There's still quite a few calls. We have to determine when they come in as a call for service, that it may not be that particular
So
apartment.
several instances where you've been called to this address over the last year and a half.
6 to 8. How about that?
What's that?
6 to 8.
Okay, thank you.
Sheriff, I'm sorry, but he characterized your response, and I'm not sure I understand it. Is there video of the incident or not?
We don't know. Okay, and we're trying to find out if there is. Okay, because in today's age and technology, people in a neighborhood, there's going to be somebody that's got a Ring camera, and we're trying to find out if anyone does. So we don't know. Okay, and just because they have a Ring camera doesn't even mean that video was recorded. Does that make sense?
It does, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Sheriff, when you talk about the history between these parties, was there a specific argument that goes back to 2021? Was it usually over being on that land? Like, what were they disagreeing about over the years?
It's a wide range of children playing in the front of the apartment or quadruplex, whatever you want to call it, or being on the property. Okay, this is not unusual calls for us. I know y'all, it isn't your highlight or first page reporting, but neighborhood disturbances are common for us that we respond to. You know, whether it be a tree limb that's over into their yard or the neighbor cutting the tree limb because the tree was on their property. These things occur on a regular basis. So we don't have all of the information. Okay, so what we do know right now, it had to do with the children. Okay.
Sheriff, the issue of the iPad being thrown, sorry, I'm an old newspaper reporter, so I'm trying to make sure I have it straight. What she's saying is she threw the iPad, but she wasn't trying to hit the kids, it just hit the kids. Is that correct?
Still ongoing. That's part of the thing that we're trying to learn from the children and other ways.
Trying to get more information.
Okay, I mean, you had said someone threw an iPad. We're saying in other words, an iPad was thrown, was what you said. Does that mean that she threw an iPad?
No, let me correct you. If I implied that one was thrown, that's not what I'm implying. I'm saying this is information that we're being told and we're trying to rule it out or confirm it, okay? That's what I'm trying to convey to you. I don't know all the facts. We don't have it all because we're only in the birth of this whole crime, the beginning of it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Now, the issue of the lot where they were playing, is that her property where they were playing?
Well, one, I'm not going to dispute that on TV at this moment, so I don't know. But again, that's not unusual for us to deal with. People always saying, this is my property line, this is my property, it's not my property. We don't ever know. Most of the time it ends up to being a civil dispute in those type of cases, so.
Sheriff, not looking to split hairs, but just want making sure for clarity.
Mhm.
Earlier, I believe you said, and I haven't gone back to obviously review it, but I believe you said something was thrown.
Correct.
A child was hit, and you guys are trying to get to the bottom of whether or not that act of something being thrown was an intentional act to try to hit a child.
I can't say if it was an intentional
I'm
act.
saying you're trying to determine if it was an
Correct. I'm trying to determine if it's
Something
intentional.
was thrown
I'll
and a
go-
child was hit.
Here's what I do know that was
Something
thrown.
was thrown by the woman who fired the shot.
Here's what I do know that was thrown. It's a pair of skates. Correct? Yep. That's what I do know as of this moment. It was a pair of skates that was thrown at the children. Now, whether it was thrown directly at them, that's what we're trying to confirm.
But something was thrown and a child was hit, and it was thrown by the person who you're being investigating on this shooting.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Listen, somebody threw something at my child, I'd be pissed off. To be frank with you, okay? It's the truth. I mean, what parent wouldn't be? Who wouldn't be upset at that? Regardless if they intentionally threw it directly at them or not. I'd be upset at my kid. I mean, upset at the individual throwing it at my kid. All right, no other questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, Sheriff, I'm sorry. Any kind of sense of time frame on this?
Y'all ask me that all the time. When we're concluded, I promise you, you'll know. That's what I'll promise you. Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, before some of you go, we need to get some names, if you don't mind. Yeah, if you actually want to say your name and spell it into the microphone.
Sure.
Everybody who spoke, that'd be great.
Attorney Anthony, that's Anthony, middle initial D, last name Thomas, Thomas. And I do represent the family of Ms.